Welcome to Stretford Paddock. I'm Ronaldo Brown and I'm back with the news at Old Trafford, and hopefully obviously fans can be here as well soon for the games. But what I'm going to say is it is absolutely brisk. It is windy as hell. I don't think I've ever experienced wind quite like it, actually. The tripods blew over about 3 times. Cam's almost fell over because he's a bit of a lightweight as well. But yeah, I'm going to have to try and get it over with. I don't usually give the weather reports, but I've got to mention it because it is very, very windy. And you might actually notice when it's blowing my hair about. But as you might actually ask, there's a question you need to ask about the wind actually. Cam mentioned to me this morning, what actually is wind? And it's quite relevant and prevalent now because of how windy it actually is. So can you let anyone that knows, any scientists, any meteorologists, whatever you are, can you let me know what actually is wind? Because that's a very, very good question. And I like the fact I mentioned that. But anyway, enough of that. And I'm going to get into a little bit of news. I've got news surrounding Varane. Might mention a little bit of Cavani and potential outgoings in Jan as well. So without further ado, let me get into the news. The first bit of news is surrounding potential outgoings in Jan. Obviously, what people want to often talk about when it comes to the transfer window or anything surrounding transfers in general, it's always about the incomings. But with United and apparently bloating our squad out a little bit in the transfer window, obviously not getting all the players that we might have liked, but we did obviously at least add to squad depth. And squad depth isn't exactly a major issue in some areas, but it might actually be in terms of like the right wing issue, which hasn't been quite resolved yet. But what we might need to realise as United fans might be a bigger problem is the players that are kind of surplus requirements that are still in the squad. And that is what apparently the United directors or the United people in charge of the transfers are pretty much focusing on, and that is prioritising selling the players that we don't exactly need. But that's the reports coming out that United are prioritised selling players in the January transfer window, have earmarked possible transfers for Sergio Romero, Phil Jones, Marcus Rojo, and Timothy Fosu-Mensah is also considering his future at the club. I can't even talk this morning because I win, but anyway, I've got my words out. And I'm pretty much in agreement with that. Obviously, we all want to see players come in. We want to see the marquee players coming in, add to it. I think United might actually be in need of someone to kind of spark it a little bit. I think we could go on a bit of a run of form. We've got obviously a pretty strenuous schedule. But I think if you're looking at it in realistically with the COVID situation, with the finances that have been kind of coming out since transfer window about the way we've been struggling in terms of that aspect, you are kind of trying to think who is actually out there for us in the January transfer window to actually bring in. So it's only right that we do get rid of the players that we don't see playing. You don't see pretty much a future of Romero. Romero's third choice now. Rojo, well down the pecking order. Phil Jones, nowhere to be seen, probably injured somewhere. And Timothy Fosu-Mensah basically seems like someone that gets like a shoe-in a game once every 6 weeks. Obviously, someone that wasn't really mentioned in that report is Jesse Lingard. Players like this, even Daniel James. I think Daniel James pretty much, he can fill out a squad depth, but for the rest of them, they're surplus requirements. And I do kind of agree with United's angle in trying to get rid of players in January rather than prioritising getting players in, because I think with United and our acquisitions, we need to focus on players that are actually going to add something to the squad. I think we've got enough squad depth now, and if someone's not out there for us to come in and then actually be a first choice player, then there's no reason going out and bringing in players that are just going to be riding the bench and not really adding to what United actually need to bring us forward and actually challenge further up the table, which is where the club needs to be. So I think getting rid of players, I'm in agreement with that. But as for actually getting buyers for them, that might be a little bit more difficult, because obviously these are players that were actually reported to be on the transfer block in summer itself, and we didn't manage to get rid of them. So with them not actually playing or not actually making a market for themselves pretty much all season, it's difficult to see how they'll actually be much of a market for them in Jan either, but we'll have to see how that works out. So let us know in the comments what you think about United's transfer policy, what it looks like they're trying to do going into the January transfer window, and whether you actually feel like we'll actually get rid of these players, because I know we've been quite inadequate when it comes to transfer negotiations, but we'll have to see. So let me know what you think in the comments. And on to the second bit of news, which is probably the main story of the video, is a quite interesting story that's brought this morning that's surrounding defender Raphael Varane, which obviously Golden Cup. I don't know why you're laughing, but I'm laughing because it seems like a transfer that doesn't really make much sense to me. But Raphael Varane has been reported to be linked to United, and actually there's a possibility that he could be coming to us in 2021. I'm not sure how valid a story that is, but it's been reported by the MEN. MEN, Spanish story. You work out how credible that is. But anyway, I'm just here to report what the news is. United are well. Apparently, Goal.com has suggested that United are well placed to sign Real Madrid defender Raphael Varane in 2021, with him being surplus to requirements and running out of form at Real Madrid. Which is, obviously, there would have been a time a couple of years ago, or maybe even further back than that, Raphael Varane would have been someone that United fans would be chomping at the bit to kind of sign. But in recent times, he's kind of fell off. He's tailed off career-wise. A lot of his success, people are saying, might be attributed to be partnered with Sergio Ramos. He's been very injury-prone over the last few years as well, and Real Madrid haven't been exactly exemplary in the past couple of years, and neither has he. I think he might have started to believe in his own hype a little bit and not maintain his standards. I remember him getting comparisons to the like of Rio Ferdinand, and he's not quite lived up to it. But to be able to sign him, I think United would have to fork out quite a lot of money, and a lot of money that United definitely wouldn't be looking to pretty much fork out for the likes of Raphael Varane in his current status and his current form, especially when you've got a lot of great centre-back options out there, even younger and a little bit more potential than him, the likes of Dyer, Upamecano, etc. So I don't really see that there's much to this story, but if it was to materialise, you can't exactly complain too much. Maybe he could kind of revitalise his career a little bit. Maybe there'll be a little bit of resurgence from him if he did kind of move on. Maybe that's partly the issue. Maybe he got too comfortable at Real Madrid and he needs a new challenge. But as for the story itself, I'm not sure how credible it is. You know, any player out there gets linked to Man United these days, so you don't really know what quite to believe at times. So let me know what you think about the Raphael Varane link. Do you think he would actually come to United? Do you think that's actually a possibility? What you would actually think if he did come, and would you be in agreement with it? I'm quite interested to find out what you might think about it. But that's it for the Raphael Varane story. And with the final story, it is surrounding Edinson Cavani. We obviously saw that he got sent off yesterday. I'm not exactly what quite for, but I do keep up with the United players in international break, but obviously international break in general I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not embarrassed to say at all. I don't really watch the games too much. I find it quite boring, so I'm excited for the fact that Premier League football is coming in the weekend, and obviously hopefully we can beat West Brom and kick on from our Everton win. But yeah, Cavani is come out, and obviously he's got sent off yesterday, but there's actually more worrying reports that he's been exposed to people that have tested positive for coronavirus in the Uruguayan squad, the likes of Luis Suarez, etc. So we're pretty much awaiting game to see how this will affect him, whether he's caught it, whether he'll have to go on the COVID list, whether he might be unavailable on the weekend. And obviously with our striking options being sometimes appearing quite thin, and with Martial not exactly firing at the moment, and with him scoring last game, it would be a major loss for United if we missed out on him for the past next couple of weeks. Obviously Tellez is returned, and we don't really want Cavani going the other way, but I think it might be a little bit of a waiting game to see what will happen with that situation, whether he's actually got it, whether we'll have to miss out on him for the next 14 days or so. We'll have to find out, but fingers crossed that he's not actually caught it. But this kind of garners a question about the risks when it comes to international break during a pandemic, or international football during a pandemic in general. Players coming from all over the world mixing together. These things are bound to happen, but obviously, you know, money talks, so international football is always going to happen, and this is obviously the risk that comes with it. But we'll have to see. But that's pretty much been it for the news this morning. I'm going to have to get off. It's windy, I'm freezing. And obviously the news has been relatively more jam-packed than usual. Obviously it's been quite quiet in the recent times, but I think it's going to get a little bit more interesting as we go towards the January transfer window, and we'll have it all for you right here on Stretford Paddock. So like, comment, subscribe if you're new. I'm Ronaldo Brown. This has been news at Old Trafford, and see you next time.